Most people talk to themselves every single day, but almost no one does it the right way. And yet, the words you use with yourself might be one of the most powerful tools you have to shape your reality. What if the secret to calming your mind, reducing anxiety, and making braver decisions wasn't about forcing yourself to be stronger, but simply about changing how you talk to yourself? Let me ask you, how often do you get stuck overthinking, replaying the same thoughts in your head? How many times have you talked yourself out of doing something important because your inner voice was too loud, too scared, too negative? And what if you could rewrite that voice, not by fighting it, but by changing the words it uses? Could saying, "You've got this," instead of, "I can do this," really change how your brain reacts? By the end of this video, you'll understand the fascinating science behind self-talk and why talking to yourself in the third person changes your brain. And I'll show you a 1-minute nightly practice to rewrite your inner dialogue so you can wake up calmer, stronger, and ready to act with courage. Let us start with a simple question. Why does the way we talk to ourselves matter so much? Think about the voice that lives in your head, the one that comments on everything you do. "I can't handle this. I always mess things up. I'm not ready." Most of us live our entire lives listening to that voice as if it were the absolute truth. But here's the twist. That voice I ascend to reality as a story. And the words you use to tell that story shape the way your brain sees the world. Philosophers have been saying this for centuries. The Stoics, like Epictetus, taught that we are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the opinions we form about them. In other words, the way we speak to ourselves about what happens is what gives those events their power. If you keep saying, "I'm overwhelmed," your mind builds a world around that sentence, and soon even small tasks feel like too much. But if you say, "You faced worse and come through," you shift the story and the world changes with it. Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, put it this way: "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." It's not just poetry, it's literal. Your language is the frame through which your brain understands reality. Change the frame and reality itself starts to look different. When you shift from I to you create a tiny but powerful distance between you and the thought. You're no longer drowning inside it, you're observing it from the shore. And from that shore, you have choices. This is why self-distancing, the practice of talking to yourself in the third person, is so powerful. It's not about tricking your brain. It's about creating space. When you say, "I can't do this," you're fused with the thought. But when you say, "You can do this," suddenly it's like someone else, a wiser, calmer version of you is speaking, and your brain listens differently. It stops reacting and starts responding. Think about how we talk to others. If a friend said, "I'm terrified I'll fail," you'd probably respond, "You've done hard things before, you'll be okay." And that's exactly the tone your mind needs from you. Ancient thinkers from the Stoics to the Buddhists understood this deeply. Wisdom often requires stepping back from the self. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed." That distance is what gives you the power to choose. Self-talk is more than a pep talk. It's a practice of self-leadership. By shifting how you speak to yourself, you stop being the scared voice inside your head and start being the guide who leads you through it. It's the difference between being trapped in the storm and being the one steering the ship. And that shift begins with just one small change. Stop saying I. Start saying you. So now let's ask the scientific question. Why does talking to yourself in the third person actually change your brain? Your mind isn't just a voice floating in your head. It is a complex prediction machine. Every thought, every word you say to yourself sends signals through neural networks that decide how your body and emotions will respond. And studies show that changing even a small part of your inner dialogue, like shifting from I to you, rewires how those networks fire. In a fascinating study from the University of Michigan, researchers found that people who referred to themselves in the third person during stressful moments had significantly less activity in the brain's emotional centers, like the amygdala, and greater activation in areas linked to reasoning and control, like the prefrontal cortex. In other words, saying, "You can handle this," instead of "I can't handle this," makes your brain feel safer and think more clearly, even though the situation hasn't changed at all. Another experiment showed that distant self-talk reduces the late positive potential, a marker of emotional reactivity, without increasing cognitive effort. That means your brain is doing less work to stay calm. It is as if switching to you turns down the emotional volume so your rational mind can step in. Here's why. When you use I, your brain processes the thought as a direct experience. It's happening to you right now. But when you use you or your own name, the brain treats it more like it, as happening to someone else, and that psychological distance is enough to change how your body reacts. Think about how easy it is to give advice to a friend compared to solving your own problems. That's self-distancing in action. Even the content of your self-talk matters. Another study found that positive inner dialogue increases connectivity between brain regions involved in emotion regulation and decision-making. That's why telling yourself, "You're learning" instead of "I'm failing" can literally reshape your neural pathways over time. It's neuroplasticity, your brain adapting to the language you feed it. And the best part? You don't need hours of meditation or years of therapy to start. This shift begins with a single sentence. Just like a GPS recalculates your route when you enter a new destination, your brain recalculates emotional responses based on the words you use. Every time you practice distant self-talk, you strengthen the pathway that links calm thinking with emotional response and weaken the one that links panic with automatic reaction. This is why the 1-minute practice you will learn at the end of this video is so powerful. It is not just about talking differently. It is about rewiring the circuits that decide how you feel and act. And when you do it before sleep, during that window when your subconscious is most open to change, it becomes even more effective. So stay with me until the end, because I'm going to guide you through a short nightly ritual that uses this science to rewrite your inner dialogue and help you wake up with more confidence, more clarity, and more control. Let's take a moment to bring everything together. We started by understanding a simple but powerful truth. The way you talk to yourself shapes the way your brain works. Philosophers like Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but the stories we tell ourselves about them. Wittgenstein reminded us that the limits of our language are the limits of our world. And modern science has confirmed what ancient wisdom already knew. Words are not just sounds, they are commands your brain follows. We saw that shifting from I to you, a technique known as distant self-talk, changes how your mind reacts to stress. Brain scans show less activation in the amygdala, the fear center, and more activity in the prefrontal cortex, which helps you think clearly. Your emotional reactivity goes down, your decision-making goes up, and the words you use start rewiring your neural pathways. Even the tone of your inner dialogue, compassionate or critical, supportive or destructive, matters. It's like programming a computer. Whatever instructions you type in, that's the code it will run. Now imagine what your life could look like if you practice this consistently. Picture waking up and facing a tough day, but instead of the usual flood of self-doubt, a calm, steady voice rises in your mind. You've done hard things before. You can handle this. Imagine facing a challenge and hearing, "You're learning, not failing." That voice becomes your inner ally, guiding you forward instead of holding you back. Over time, that shift isn't just in words, it's in your biology. Your brain begins to expect strength instead of fear, courage instead of hesitation. Let's turn this knowledge into a practice. Here's a simple exercise you can do every night before sleep. It only takes a minute, but it can start rewiring how you talk to yourself. Start by lying down or sitting comfortably. Close your eyes and place one hand gently over your chest. Take a slow breath in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold it for 1 and exhale gently through your mouth for a count of 6. Do this 3 times. As you breathe, bring to mind something that's been worrying you, a situation, a decision, or a fear. Notice the thoughts that arise. Maybe they start with "I can't" or "I'm scared." That's okay. Now, gently shift them. Say to yourself, "You are safe." You are stronger than you think. You can choose differently this time. Speak to yourself like a friend you love because that's exactly who you are. This simple practice works because it taps directly into the way your predictive brain functions. As you repeat these phrases, your brain begins to associate you with safety and strength. Over time, that association becomes automatic. Just like a song gets stuck in your head after hearing it a few times, these new patterns will replay on their own when you need them most. And because you're repracticing before sleep, when the subconscious is most open, those new connections form even faster. Do this every night for the next 7 days and notice the shift. You'll catch yourself speaking more kindly, acting more confidently, and recovering faster when life gets hard. That's not a coincidence, it's your brain adapting to the language you chose. And now I want to hear from you. What phrase are you going to say to yourself tonight? Share it in the comments. You might inspire someone else to start their journey too. And if this video helped you see your inner voice differently, subscribe to the channel. Every day, I share practical ways to reprogram your subconscious mind using ancient wisdom and cutting-edge neuroscience, so you can stop fighting your thoughts and start shaping them on purpose.